weird brain. I know that when I was driving out of nowhere, my mind goes to places that are very unusual for me. As many know, I'm a very easygoing person, very laid back, very positive. But once in a while, I get this feeling, this odd calling of sorts, like driving down the road and having the sudden urge to pull off in a very fast manner that could possibly cause injuries. What an odd random thought. Why would I think these things? Am I mad? Or standing on a cliff and wondering I could just jump? Well, believe it or not, there's a name for that. If you or anyone has felt this way, you're not alone. And now you know that. And now you know also that there's a name for this feeling. And that it's not as crazy as you may think. If you haven't had these random thoughts, consider yourself very lucky or grateful. But I've learned that this is called the call to the void, which I find interesting because I think of when I was little and I had these overwhelming feelings of random sadness sometimes. And I almost felt like it didn't belong to me. We are going to try and assess why this occurs and why it may happen. And again, as stated, they call this the call to the dark void. And essentially, what they will tell you is this is your brain checking its systems, making sure that you react with displeasure or a horrific thought. If you've ever experienced this feeling in a completely non-suicidal way, there is no definitive conclusion or explanation for it. It is, however, a feeling common enough that studies have been dedicated to it. In 2012, Jennifer Hames led a study at the Department of Psychology at Florida State University on the call of the void. She called it the high place phenomenon, and ultimately said the call of the void is potentially the mind's weirdest and seemingly paradoxical way of approaching life. The study samples the survey of 431 undergrad students, asking them if they've experienced this phenomenon. At the time, they assessed their moods and behaviors, symptoms of depression, anxiety levels, and their levels of ideation. A third of the study's participants reported that they had experienced the phenomenon. People with higher anxiety were more likely to have the urge, but also people with higher anxiety were more likely to have higher ideation. So people with higher ideation were more likely to report the phenomenon. A little over 50% of the subjects who said they felt the call of the void had never had suicidal tendencies. So what exactly is going on? It could be explained by a strange mix between the conscious and unconscious mind. The analogy Jennifer Hames gives in relation to the call to the void, or the high place phenomenon, is that of a person walking near the edge of a roof. Suddenly the person has a reflex to jump back, even though they weren't in danger of falling. The mind quickly rationalizes the situation. Why did I back away? I can't possibly fall. There's a railing there, so therefore I wanted to jump, quotes the study as the conclusion people come to. Basically, since I lunged away, I must have wanted to jump, but I really don't want to jump because I want to live. Thus, individuals who report experiencing the phenomenon are not necessarily depressed or wanting to hurt themselves. Rather, the experience of high place phenomenon may reflect their sensitive internal cues and actually affirm their will to live, Humes summarized. The study is flawed, but interesting, with a major takeaway being clear that the example demonstrates of the notion that unusual and confusing thoughts don't actually indicate real risk and also aren't isolated. An alternative theory to the call to the void comes from Adam Anderson, cognitive neuroscientist at Cornell University. He studies behavior and emotion using images of the brain. His theory for call of the void is more along the lines of tendency to gamble. Ooh, interesting, I like that. People are more likely to take risks when in a situation that is bad because they want to avoid the possibility of a bad outcome by gambling against it. As illogical as it may sound, if someone has a fear of heights, their instinct is to gamble against it by jumping from the high place. Future gain is not as immediate as avoiding present danger. Fear of heights and fear of death are not so connected. Fear of death holds emotional distance that other, less abstract fears don't. Therefore, jumping solves the fear of heights immediately. Then you're confronted with the fear of death, which is the problem, which may wind up not being the problem if you die. It's like the CIA and FBI are communicating about risk assessments, said Anderson. Numerous other theories have been examined as well. From French philosopher Jean Satir, it's a moment of existentialist truth about the human freedom to choose whether to live or die. There's a vertigo of possibility when humans contemplate dangerous experiments in freedom, the idea that we can choose to do this. There's also the purely human explanation. The urge to sabotage ourselves is human. Even though there is no scientific, foolproof explanation for this, the call to the void, the fact that many theories and several studies have been done on it proves it's a shared sensation. After learning about the call to the void, read about Stanford prison experiment, which revealed the darkest depths of human psychology. Then learn about Franz Richel, a man who passed away by jumping off the Eiffel Tower. There will be a day where you will have a moment and you will feel alone, but just note that that's farthest from the truth. You are never alone. As there are people out there going through something so similar, there's always hope, there's always help. If you are in trouble or have negative thoughts, just reach out to a doctor or a psychologist. There's no shame in getting the help you need. I hope this enlightens some and give us a better understanding of why we have the thoughts we do. I want to say Happy New Year's to everybody. I hope you had a great holiday. I'm so glad it's 2020, and let's get it.